Our ESA Hubble picture of the week features the spiral arms of NGC 3596. NGC 3596 appears face-on when viewed from Earth, showcasing its neatly wound spiral arms. Star formation is most active here, as shown by the pink star-forming regions and young blue stars tracing the arms in this image. What causes spiral arms to form? It's surprisingly hard to say. This is partly because of the diversity of spiral galaxies. They can be clear or patchy, barred or with compact nuclei, and so on. Researchers believe that spiral arms represent patterns of high and low density areas rather than physical structures. As material orbits within a galaxy's disk, they pass through the spiral arms, like cars moving through a traffic jam. Read more. ESA, European Space Agency, Hubble Space Telescope, and NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, D. Thilker, are features a pair of galaxies imaged by a pair of telescopes, the NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope and the NASA ESA CSA James Webb Space Telescope. The two galaxies have only grazed one another so far, with the smaller spiral on the left, IC 2163, sliding slowly behind the spiral on the right, NGC 2207, millions of years ago. They may swing by one another repeatedly over millions of years, and eventually they might meld. These striking colors represent a combination of mid-infrared light from James Webb Space Telescope and visible and ultraviolet light from Hubble. Read more about it here. NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, ESA, European Space Agency, Canadian Space Agency, and STSCI. Our ESA Hubble picture of the week features a snapshot of a peculiar spiral. ARP 184 got its name from the Atlas of Peculiar Galaxies, compiled by Halton ARP in 1966. It earned its spot in the catalog thanks to its single star-speckled spiral arm that appears to stretch towards us. This image combines data from 3 snapshot observing programs, which are made up of short observations. One of the programs targeted ARP 184 for its peculiar appearance, and the other 2 were for looking at the aftermath of fleeting astronomical events like supernovae. Since ARP 184 has hosted 4 known supernovae in the past 3 decades, it's a great target for a supernova hunt. Read more. ESA, European Space Agency, Hubble Space Telescope, and NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, J. Dalcanton, R.J. Foley, UC Santa Cruz, C. Kilpatrick. Our features: the stormy weather of Jupiter. The NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope monitors Jupiter and the other outer solar system planets every year to track their atmospheres. The giant planets are shrouded in clouds and hazes stirred up by violent winds, leading to a kaleidoscope of ever-changing weather. The famous Great Red Spot stands out prominently, with the Red Spot Junior to its lower right. Moving in opposite directions, Red Spot Junior passes the Great Red Spot about every 2 years. Read more about it here. NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, ESA, European Space Agency, J. De Pasquale, STSCI, A. Simon, NASA, GSFC. A very special date is coming up for the NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope, its 35th anniversary. This 24th of April will mark 35 years since Hubble was sent into orbit aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery. To celebrate, ESA Hubble is releasing a commemorative 2025 calendar, which looks back over a selection of Hubble's most breathtaking anniversary images, taking us through the history and highlights of its work. Read more. ESA, European Space Agency, Hubble Space Telescope. The glittering cluster Messier 72, M72, shines again as part of our celebrations. A new image series is revisiting stunning NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope targets that were previously released. M72 is a particularly special target because it was the first image ever published in our Picture of the Week series. on 22nd April 2010. For 15 years, the ESA Hubble team has been publishing a new image every Monday, leading to nearly 800 images published over the years. M72 is a globular cluster located roughly 50,000 light-years from Earth in the constellation Aquarius. The intense gravitational attraction between the closely packed stars gives these clusters their regular, spherical shape. The variety in the color of the stars results from adding ultraviolet observations to previous visible light data. The colors indicate populations of different types of stars. Stars of the same color likely form together. Generally, star clusters are believed to be made of stars that were all born once, but distinct populations of stars, as seen here, are common in globular clusters. This poses questions about how they first formed. Read more. ESA, European Space Agency, Hubble Space Telescope, NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, A. Saragardini, G. Piotto, M. Liberato. The NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope has spied a cosmic pillar in the Eagle Nebula. This new view is part of a series being shared for Hubble's 35th anniversary celebrations, revisiting its previous targets. This stellar nursery displays a towering spire of cosmic gas and gust, 9.5 light-years tall. It may be vast, but it is just one detail of the Greater Eagle Nebula. The heart of the nebula, located beyond the edge of this image, is home to a cluster of young stars. These have excavated an immense cavity in the center of the nebula, shaping otherworldly pillars and globules of dusty gas. The new image incorporates data processing techniques that have been developed since an image of the region was last released 2 decades ago. Read more. ESA, European Space Agency, Hubble Space Telescope, and NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. K. Knoll. Our features evidence of an unusual black hole in Omega Centauri. Omega Centauri is the largest and brightest globular cluster in the sky. It is visible from Earth with the naked eye, and a favorite object for stargazers in the southern hemisphere. Globular clusters typically consist of up to 1 million old stars tightly bound by gravity, but Omega Centauri consists of roughly 10 million. Astronomers created a catalog of the motion of these stars and, in doing so, detected 7 fast-moving stars in the cluster's innermost region. These stars provide compelling evidence for the presence of an intermediate-mass black hole, a missing link in black hole evolution. Read more about it here. ESA, European Space Agency, Hubble Space Telescope, where NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, Hubble, MPIA. Ahead of its 35th anniversary, the NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope has returned to a galactic favorite. The Sombrero Galaxy, also known as Messier 104, is instantly recognizable. Viewed nearly edge-on, it resembles the rounded crown and broad brim of the Mexican hat from which it gets its name. Researchers have used Hubble to investigate the Sombrero Galaxy, measuring the metals in its stars. The discovery of extremely metal-rich stars in its halo suggests that it merged with a massive galaxy billions of years ago. This image is part of a new series being shared as part of the celebrations, which revisits stunning Hubble targets that were previously released. Read more. ESA, European Space Agency, Hubble Space Telescope, and NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. K. Knoll. The NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope joins forces with ESA's Gaia mission to investigate a magnetar's mysterious birthplace. Magnetars are ultra-dense stellar remnants with extremely strong magnetic fields. The Magnetar SGR 041-4516, one of about 30 known magnetars in the Milky Way, is a particularly interesting example. Most magnetars are thought to be born in supernovae. This appeared the case for SGR 0501-4516, which is located near a supernovae remnant, HB9. However, a decade-long study with Hubble has found that it was not born in this neighboring supernova remnant, or any other supernova remnant. Its birthplace is now unknown. For this finding, researchers used Hubble to spot the magnetar's faint infrared glow. The images were then aligned to a reference frame defined by observations from the ESA Gaia spacecraft, which has crafted an extraordinarily precise 3-dimensional map of nearly 2 billion stars in the Milky Way. Read more. Artist's Impression, ESA, European Space Agency. Get ready to celebrate 35 years since the NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope was sent into orbit with this video from ARD MediaTek. Watch here. ARD. On 24th of April 1990, the NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope was sent into orbit aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery. Each year of its mission has been marked by a beautiful image, newly released for the occasion. Now, ESA Hubble is releasing a very special 2025 calendar, highlights from 35 years of discovery that looks back over a selection of these anniversary images. These include images of galaxies, nebulae, star clusters, and more. Read more. ESA, European Space Agency, Hubble Space Telescope. Our ESA or Hubble picture of the week features the squid and the whale. The spiral galaxy Messier 77, also known as the Squid Galaxy, is found 45 million light-years away in the constellation Cetus, the whale. At the time of its discovery through a small telescope, astronomers thought it a spiral nebula or star cluster. More than a century passed before they realized the spiral nebulae dotting the sky were separate galaxies far, far away. Its nickname, the Squid Galaxy, comes from the filamentary structure that curls around its disk like the tentacles of a squid, details that previous generations of astronomers were unable to see. Read more. ESA, European Space Agency, Hubble Space Telescope, and NASA. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, LC Ho, D. Thilker.